Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm finally recording the long-awaited follow-up to my prior Rocket Scooter video. I was on vacation the week after filming my first Rocket Scooter video, so I didn't get to trade the entire week, and then upon returning I was so busy getting caught up with things I didn't get to trade much at all. However, I was able to trade on Friday, August 19th, 2022, and I'm really glad I did. I'll go through how I traded it using Rocket Scooter, and I'll do a follow-up video on the terms used in Rocket Scooter since I've been getting a lot of questions about them. Before we get started, I'll leave several referral codes for trading services I use in the description, including Rocket Scooter, Elite, Trader Funding, and TradingView that will give us both discounts. Lastly, if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like and subscribe to help me grow this channel. So with all that being said, let's get right into it. One thing I just want to mention real quick before we get started is that I am going to be starting a new funded trader account. I initially was going to do it with Top Step, but I found a better service called Elite Trader Fund that I'm going to be doing instead. And I didn't want to start it on a Friday, so I'm actually going to be starting it this Monday. So I was using my main account on Friday. However, I kind of wish I did start the combine because I probably would have passed it in one day and I could have just waited for the 5-day minimum to pass before continuing. So I just want to point out what I have here in front of us. This is the Rocket Scooter liquidity map. Now, if you're using Rocket Scooter, it's very important that you pull this from their Discord under liquidity maps. It's their playbook. And basically what this shows is how to trade a particular day based on what the Rocket Scooter liquidity map shows. Now, I don't, unfortunately, when I pull up Rocket Scooter, you could see if I load their main app here, let me just go into that. Unfortunately, I can use the classic app, but the main one right now doesn't show historical data. So if I try to pull it up, it's just going to tell me in the top right that it's not connected. So I have to use screenshots that I took from the day, but that's okay. I'll also show you how I mark it on the chart because I do trade within TradingView, so I have to mark it on my chart, and you can also use TradingView for that. Now, what I have in front of me is SPY, and in the Discord, you can also get, if you don't pull up the GUI, you can also get their numbers. So this is what it looked like. Now, this was near the end of the day. This was what Rocket Scooter was showing near the end of the day, and we could see that it is a BRSD day, which means a bear down day, bear sell down day. And basically it was that way because we're in the bear zone, which is this gray background you see here. And like I said, I'll do a follow-up video on all the terms. And we were opening underneath hedge pressure and also monthly hedge pressure, which were the same level. Now, the reason they were the same level is because August 19th, 2022 was a major monthly expiration event. So both of these numbers are the same. However, normally they're not the same. Normally monthly hedge pressure is a different number than regular hedge pressure, but they were the same today. And then up here you can't really see it, and it didn't come into play, but this is the half gap level, which is 426.40, which is calculated from the prior day close to the day's open, and it didn't even come into consideration. Now, if we did approach that half gap level at some point in the day, we'd want to look at this gray line you see down here to get an idea if we were going to break it or not. That's called resilience. And then this orange line right here tells us if hedge pressure is going to hold or not. And we could see that it started out, there was a lot of chop initially. They showed this on the 1-minute chart, and then it ended up breaking below that zero line, and we actually did reject off of hedge pressure and monthly hedge pressure, which is exactly what we expected. But not only was it did we reject off of it, but per normal, the way the hedge pressure normally works, it was a massive rejection, and catching this was huge for my account, and I'll talk about how I played that. But this was a massive win, and even though I wasn't able to trade the past 2 weeks consistently because of everything going on, I still watched Rocket Scooter every single day and checked on it. I wish I would have taken screenshots every day, but it was amazing because even with FOMC and FOMC minutes, the software was still incredibly accurate. These hedge pressure zones came into play in a major way every single time, whether we were above them or below them, whether they were retested multiple times. And it's just astonishing to me that they're able to identify the most powerful level like that. Because I've been looking at gamma exposure for a very long time, for probably over a year now, and have been using it in my trading. However, the way they identify the most important gamma level is pretty impressive, which would be this 425. So Now, another thing I want to mention is I do trade futures predominantly, and so in their Discord, they also post this morning conversions chart. And we can see it was a BRSD day for SPY, which correlates with ES, and the price action is the same there. However, the points are different, so they do the conversion for us, which is really nice. So 425 was hedge pressure and monthly hedge pressure, and on ES that meant 42.59.45 was monthly hedge pressure and hedge pressure. And then they also have the NQ numbers, VXX, IWM, and UVXY, which are all the most popular futures and ETFs to trade, which is really nice. And they also do this at night. I just want to point that out. If you can't trade futures during the day, if you prefer to trade at night, they provide these levels at night too. And I've checked, and they do work pretty well. They work astonishingly well during the day, but they also work pretty well at night too. And so I just want to show SPY's chart here. So I marked this 425 level at open when the hedge pressure numbers came out. We saw it was a bear sell down day, and again, just to show that liquidity map, we can see here that what we're expecting is based on where we open. We have this little legend down here that we're either going to push up to hedge pressure and reject, or push up to monthly hedge pressure and reject, which you can see color coded down here, or we're just going to straight fall. And actually what did happen was we pushed up to hedge pressure, which was also monthly hedge pressure, and it looked like we were going to try to push past it, but we kept getting rejected, which was a great cue to enter when you see these wicks on higher volume getting rejected every time we try to push up. And like I said, I trade ES, and what I want to mention on ES, what I really liked, is that it lined up with the VWAP very well. Again, it looked like it was going to break for a little bit there, but we kept getting a rejection. So it gave plenty of time to enter, because this is the 3-minute chart. So we had about a little less than 9 minutes to get in this trade, which is actually a very long time with trading. So we could load up here, and I have a line drawn above it. And I want to talk about why I drew that level, because regardless, no matter how amazing any software is, no matter how great any tool we're using is, any trading strategy we're using is, there are times where it is going to be wrong. I haven't encountered it with Rocket Scooter yet, but I know I will, because that happens with everything. And so of course, before getting into any try, and I've talked about this in many of my other videos, I always have an idea of where my profit target would be, which I was using pre-market levels on ES. And also I do go through, I don't have them marked here, but I always look at the daily, the hourly, and the 15-minute to draw levels and trends and things like that, so I know where we're at on the chart and where key levels are likely going to be. And feel free to check any of my other prior videos for that. But in this case, entering at hedge pressure, before I entered, I wanted to know where would my stop be. And if we look at the prior day, we can see we have this low here on the prior day up at 42.64 on ES, which is the perfect stop. So I knew if I enter this trade and we break above that, I need to get out of the trade, because the trade's wrong, no longer valid at that point. And if you were doing SPY, same thing, 425.50 was that level. If we scroll over here, we could see that same exact area. Again, the price action is the same, whether you're trading SPY or ES. The point values are different, but the price action is indeed the same. And so this low just was the most sensible stop. So entering puts in here, whether you're trading SPY or shorts in ES, the plan was if it came above this, that I would get out of the trade. Now, if we look at how this played out, we can see that once we finally did reject here on this this third 3-minute bar, we just proceeded to fall rapidly, and there was no reason to get out. Even with this candle, I want to point out, like, this candle looks very bullish in terms of that wick pushing back. It's not really on higher volume. Now, if you're looking at it on SPY, it actually was on higher volume, which could indicate that we're getting stopped here. However, at no point does it even retest the high of the previous candle, which is something I like to pay attention to. It just barely retraces 50%, not even, and then we proceed with falling. So again, no reason to get out here. And then actually it looked like we were going to keep dropping here, but I knew that there had to be a pivot at some point. And when we start seeing these green candles and we start seeing higher lows here, this is the time to take some of the trade off the table, take some profits. However, we could see that we start getting rejections here, and if we just mark this level on these initial rejections, we can see that at no point do we even get past that. So again, if say we had missed this initial trade, or we were trying to decide if we want to get out entirely or not. We want to use logic here. We want to use price action volume to make that decision, because at this point, they do have walls on Rocket Scooter where we can see, but these walls all correlate with even dollars on SPY, because the way options buying and selling works on SPY is it's in $1 increments. So all of the gamma exposure is always going to fall in these dollar values, which a lot of people call it psychological levels. And so I do play these, and I do help decide if I'm going to slide my stops here, but I also, understand in this case, like, even though it was chopping around this wall, it didn't hold very cleanly. So I do like to put my own levels as well to make sure I stay in the trade like I normally would. And I use volume profile. We could see after this big fall and all this starts happening here, that volume profile starts filling out, and we have this gap above. And if you're not familiar with volume profile, I have many videos on it that you should definitely check out, because it's an incredibly powerful tool. And we could see here that that essentially my plan was, if we broke above this gap over here, if we broke above these candles, that this was no longer a pivot, and then I would get out and then look for a re-entry. I still wanted to be in shorts because it's still a bear day. I'm not going to fight the trend, and you can if you're an experienced trader. It's not something I suggest doing, as depending on your experience level. But you can see, you could even consider entering a limit order here and get in short if you miss this initial move. And that's what's always important to remember, is that even if we miss an initial move, there's always going to be other entries. So we could have added positions here as well, and then we proceeded to drop further. And eventually this became the bottom for a while. We hit this point, and if we look at where that lines up with here, we could see it was that 422 level, and at this point, we started pushing back up a bit. And right here, since it's a bear day, we're in the bear zone, we only want to be looking for shorts. This candle would have been a good entry candle. However, we didn't get very far before we started reversing. So this is the sort of situation where if you took this trade, you'd want to make sure that that if it does start coming back, that you don't all of a sudden take a loss, that you at least cut it for break even, or you take some profits there. Now, as we do start coming up though, we start making higher lows and same highs, somewhat higher highs, higher lows, and then eventually at this point, we know that this level is going to come into play again. And on ES, this lined up with the VWAP. On SPY, did not line up with the VWAP as cleanly. However, it still did line up with this previous price action. Now we do get a little bit above it, but as soon as we do, we start rejecting again. And same thing on SPY, we have this big volume gap here. So once again, knowing that it's a bear day, we've been in, for the most part, a big downtrend despite this small short-term uptrend. At no point are we making a clean high over this level. So we still want to be taking shorts. Now, if we had broken above this level and retested and moved higher, at that point I would have reversed my sentiment, at least up to hedge pressure again, and then taking shorts. Because I want to point out with Rocket Scooter, I've noticed that almost every time we come back to hedge pressure, there's a big reaction that we can play off of. And so, if we broke here, retested, and went higher, I would have gladly considered taking longs at least up to hedge pressure, and then looking to reverse that back into shorts or puts all the way back down, as long as we saw some higher volume indication of big money stepping in to push it lower again. However, that didn't happen. Even though we broke above it slightly, we didn't make any clean break above it. We had these wick rejections, and this is another opportunity to get in short here. And we could see we took it all the way down, and even though we had pivots in between, eventually we actually made a new low on the day, which ended up being the final low of the day. Now at that point, I mean, between these two trades, whether you caught it here, whether you got into shorts on this side, or you got into shorts initially off of hedge pressure, those were three massive trades with proper scaling, which I've talked about in my channels before, proper risk management, making sure that we're marking levels as we go, and that we're sliding stops gradually as we go. That we're trying to play with the trend. I mean, at a minimum, these were three massive trades, massive wins that we could have grabbed out this day without too much trouble. And as long as we're playing with market structure and not fighting the trend, we're good to go. And the amazing part is that Rocket Scooter was correct. After touching this big hedge pressure level, I mean, we just fell, and then we just at no point did we even come close to getting back up there, and we stuck in this bear zone the whole day. So hopefully that gives you some insight into power of this tool. I will definitely be doing more and more videos of these this upcoming week, just to keep demonstrating how powerful this is. And then I'll be doing this with my new account too, so we can go over trades. I want to try to gear it towards people with smaller accounts and what we can do to grow those rapidly using Rocket Scooter. I think that will be something a lot of people would find interesting and might even be able to relate to. And so yeah, we'll leave it at that for now, and I'll do a follow-up video on what all these terms mean for Rocket Scooter and how we can use them properly, whether you're trading SPY or ES, or even you can even trade SPX as well. There's it's all the same price action really. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and I appreciate you watching.